It's a classic trap. Those companies are thinking they have a lead problem, but most of you listening don't actually have a lead problem. You have what I would call a leverage problem. What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to the Fitz and Franson Show. I'm Fitz.
And I'm Franson.
And this is a show where we talk about leadership, business, growth, and what it actually takes to build something that lasts without lying to yourself along the way.
Yep. Not here for the hype. We're here for the clarity because chaos is normal in business, but staying there is a choice.
Absolutely. Now, before we dig into the meat of today's episode, let's kick things off with our daily rundown. So we track what our audience is searching for and what the biggest conversations in the business world are right now, so we can bring you the content that actually matters.
Yeah. And this week, it's pretty loud and clear out there across the board. A lot of home improvement companies are searching for ways to lower their cost per lead. Everyone's complaining that these leads are too expensive, the market's tight, and they just need more at-bats.
Yeah, it's a classic trap, unfortunately. What we see out there is that those companies are thinking they have a lead problem. But my hot take for today is that most of you listening don't actually have a lead problem. You have what I would call a leverage problem. You're paying maybe 500, upwards of $800, $900 to get a rep into a home, and the rep is only quoting exactly what that customer asked for.
Yeah. In our industry, a lot of garages get sold. And so the customer saw the garage floor ad, the rep quotes the garage floor, and then they leave. They don't mention the patio. They don't mention the front porch, nothing else.
Exactly. And look, even if one of your reps, I should say, is doing this, you could be leaving upwards of 20% of your revenue in the driveway, because at that point, your team has turned into order takers and not salespeople.
Yeah. So let's kind of break it down and kind of discuss why this is happening. Because, when an owner opens their dashboard, they see this cost of acquisition going up. So their instinct is to squeeze marketing. I've heard this a lot. Jay, get me cheaper leads. But you can't outmarket a broken sales process in the home.
Sure. I mean, for the record, I'm okay with the owner squeezing marketing just a little bit for the start, but I don't
too.
disagree with
It's
you
fair.
that the sales process got to get looked at too. You definitely can't outmarket that process, like you said. The math simply it just doesn't work anymore, right? It costs 5 to 7 times more to acquire a new customer than it does to sell more to an existing one. So if you want to scale past maybe that, 5 or 10 or even 30 million for some of those bigger companies out there, you have to maximize the revenue per appointment, right? So you have to expand the scope of work when possible.
Yeah. And I'm actually just going to interject here a little bit of statistics on the powerful marketing side. We're in 40 locations across the US, and I can say with 100% certainty, everywhere cost per lead is going up. And so, like you said, squeeze marketing, run marketing efficiently. But what we're talking about today is taking care of the other side of that equation.
Mhm.
So, there is a massive tension here. When I talk to owners or sales managers, I do hear this pretty regular where they say that, the reps are terrified or at least scared of an upsell. These
Mhm.
reps, they're thinking, well, shoot it, if I can barely get the garage, if I push for the patio, I might lose the garage floor. I don't want to blow the whole deal.
Sure. Look, and those are the ones that are saying it, right? There's plenty more that don't even say that. And you've heard me say this before, Jay. When a rep says that, what they're really saying is that they're selling scared, right? Unfortunately, it's a completely backwards, way of thinking from how human psychology actually works.
Mm.
They're operating on maybe some false assumptions, in my humble opinion. They think that asking for more will end up creating friction. But if you understand that psychology of influence, asking for more at the right time, right, actually will
Hmm.
help validate the decisions that are already being made.
Sure. Love talking psychology with you, Fitz. So let's
Mm.
dig into that psychology because this is where the magic can happen. What is actually going on in the homeowner's brain when they finally say yes to that initial project?
Yeah. So if my teachers could see me now talking about psychology, they would be shocked, probably a little terrified, if we're being
That's
honest.
fine.
Right. There's a concept in behavioral economics called the shopping momentum effect, right? And when a customer is evaluating a quote, they're in deciding mode, right? And there is friction, there is a little bit of stress, but the second they actually say yes, the second they make the commitment, their brain shifts from that deciding mode into buying mode, purchasing mode.
Sure. The dam breaks.
Yeah, so there's a lot of momentum at that point. Grant Cardone, who's somebody that I know both of us listen to and follow, he talks about this on a pretty regular basis, and he calls it an opportunity, but he refers to it as like the second sale, right? And I think one of the things he talks about on a regular basis is that the second money is always easier to get than the first money, right?
Hmm.
And once somebody has trusted you enough to hand over their credit card or their check or sign up for financing, the opportunity to get more of that is usually a lot easier. The hardest part of the job is actually getting them to trust you enough to hand over that stuff on the first attempt. So
Hmm.
once they've done that, the rapport is built and they trust you as the expert at that point.
Yeah. Okay. So the rep who packs up his bag the second he gets the signature on the garage floor is most likely walking away at the exact moment the customer is most primed to buy something else.
100%. Right. So when you think about it, this is like the guard is at its absolute, there is no more guard. The guard's at
Hmm.
its lowest possible point after they've committed to trusting you with everything they got at this point. And we see this in other industries too. So another name that we've mentioned in the past, Chris Voss, the former FBI
Yep.
negotiator, he talks a lot about tactical empathy and anchoring, right? His book, it's a great one. I recommend it if you haven't
Hmm.
listened to it. But you don't necessarily aggressively want to be pushing upsells. You need to use labels, right? So
Yeah.
things like you take a lot of pride in how the front of your house looks. How am I supposed to leave you here and have your front walkway unprotected when we're already going to be out here doing your garage, right? Maybe say it a little cleaner than I just did, but
Yeah.
that kind of idea.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's brilliant. I also love Chris Voss. Great book. Never Split the Difference.
Hmm.
You're making it their problem to solve ultimately, but you are also standing alongside of them, offering the solution at the same time. And it aligns with what Chase Hughes actually talks about too regarding commitment and consistency. Once the customer has committed to upgrading their home, it's psychologically consistent for them to want the rest of the space to match.
Yeah. Yeah. You're not necessarily like trying to like force compliance. Like I'm not trying to like force you to spend more money. You're maybe more so trying to use like influence to guide them to
Hmm.
what are ultimately some logical conclusions that doing it all at once saves them time, saves them money, and ultimately can get them the best results, right? And Jay, I'll share like a real world example of this, if you don't mind.
Yeah.
In a previous life company I was with, we sold bathrooms, and generally speaking, there's usually more than one shower in a house. They were put in the house at the same time. So generally these things degrade at about the same pace, right? And it's better for the homeowner when we do them both at the same time. So try to get the opportunity like to quote both bathrooms. But like you mentioned earlier, inherently, salespeople are going to try to take the path of least resistance. They don't want to
Yeah.
scare off the sale.
Hmm.
And, we were preach all the time, just ask. The worst that's going to
Hmm.
happen is they're going to say no. And we know that a bathroom or a shower is generally going to be within these dimensions. So it was as simple as just saying, like, hey, build a bathroom and show them what it would look like roughly at this rate. And had a couple of guys that bought into it would do it on a regular basis and they would get two bathrooms on a regular basis.
Hmm.
And a couple of guys that just refused to do it. And I'll never forget going on a ride along with rep one time. And I said, hey, I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna do the presentation. And we're going through the presentation and get down to the price. And the homeowner says, man, it's just a little bit more than we thought it was going to be. And I said, okay, well, what if I told you this included the hall bathroom as well? And they went, what? It's like,
What?
yeah. I mean, I built a pretty basic shower in there, right? White walls and, just kind of standard fixtures and all that kind of stuff. If we wanted to make some changes to it, it might change the price a little bit for you, but we could also do the hall bath for what I'm showing you here.
Hmm.
All of a sudden, the whole world changes, right? And
Yep.
again, I'm not necessarily forcing compliance like I was just saying there, but
Yeah.
the influence of like this might make the most amount of sense. Like the logic is here because waiting to do this is going to cost you more money. It's going to take a lot longer. It's going to disrupt your life more, all of these things. So it's at least worth considering at this point. And if you could fit it in your budget, it's the right thing to do. Right.
Hmm.
And again, the light bulb went off for them, went off for the salesperson, and it became a normal practice for them. And do you get all of them to do both bathrooms at that point? No. Just like, are you going to add the walkway? Are you going to add the back patio. Like, no,
Yep.
not all the time, but just opening up the world of possibility to a person to consider is the right thing to do. So, sorry, I
Hmm.
hope you don't mind me
Yeah.
sharing that story. I thought it was right.
That's a great story, and that actually reminds me. There's a rep down in Arizona that consistently sits at the top of the sales charts in our industry, and when she's in the home, she just simply says, "Hey, while I'm here, do you mind if I just measure your other concrete?" And then she measures it and says, "Oh, if you are interested right now, here are the numbers."
Hmm.
And she consistently outsells everybody else because she takes the time to say, "Hey, I'm here. How about I help you solve these problems too?"
Sure.
So I like talking about sales and how it's their problem to solve. But here's the thing: it shouldn't actually just be on the sales reps to introduce this idea cold in the living room. A fairly well organized operation, marketing needs to do a lot of this heavy lifting before the rep ever knocks on the door.
I love this, right? It's a shared responsibility for sure. So, talk to me a
Yeah.
little bit about how marketing can help support this upsell for us salespeople.
Yeah, marketing's job really is to pre-sell the expanded scope, right? If a lead comes in for a garage floor, well, actually, we're going to back up before the lead even comes in. What is the material showing? Especially when they start out brand new, they say, I just want to sell garage floors. And we say, well, we'd recommend having some of your ad creative include patios or porches or front walkways, just so that customers know that you can do more than just a garage. And so it does start with the creative first. But then that lead comes in, they see an ad, and maybe it is just for a garage floor, and your team or your automated messages or your automated email, this stuff should include more information on what you do. My team always says, hey, thanks for your interest. Are you interested in a garage, a patio, a pool deck, or something else? Right off the bat, we say, hey, we do this on a lot of surfaces. Where are your needs? And so, another thing that a lot of dealers do is they include a video, kind of a
Mm.
how to or what to expect or a time lapse or something like that. And include that link in the email or include it in the text messages, showing them that you're doing a lot more than just a garage floor.
Yeah, I think that's awesome. You're doing a great job of setting the sales team up, going in the door with basically planting these seeds that there's these opportunities that can hopefully come to fruition, for them when they walk in the door. Sales has got to, kind of cultivate that as soon as they walk in the door. So I think one of the things I'll add to this is communication and the understanding, like that is what's happening on the front side. That the sales team needs to
Yeah.
know that, because it
Yep.
going back to the idea of maybe being scared to bring it up and talk about it, and maybe run off a potential sale,
Hmm.
knowing that those are things that are being planted before I walk in the door as a
Yeah.
salesperson can help strengthen that resolve, and like, hey, it's okay for me to ask for it and bring it up because it's something that's already been planted in the back of their mind. That's awesome.
Exactly. I mean, you're trying to anchor the customer to a larger project. And like we talked about earlier, just simply recognizing the consistency across the front of the home. You're
Mm.
getting the garage done. Let's keep that consistency across the front of your home. And then, when the rep shows up, the homeowner says, "Oh, hey, I saw the video you guys sent, or I saw some of your other ads on Facebook showing a patio. How much would it be to add the patio?" You get the social proof. You show them that most of, maybe their neighbors in their specific area are getting other parts of their home done, and they're adding these on when they do their garage.
Yeah, that's awesome. I mean, that's truly how you build a full system, right? That ends up starting to feed itself. It's not just like a rogue sales tactic or the pushy sales tactic that we get,
Hmm.
unfortunately, blamed for at times. And I
Yeah.
think you get the opportunity to use value stacking, right? Another name we'll throw out there in the episode, Alex Hormozzi's, I think, framework here is really a perfect opportunity, right? You make the offer so good that they feel, for lack of a more articulate word here, you make them feel stupid for saying no, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's a really good one.
And help me understand, Fitz, how that sounds in the home.
You're not dumb, are you? No, it's a little bit
Yeah.
it's a little bit better than that. So the rep would say something to the effect of like, look, normally to come back to do this other portion of your work, we're doing a garage, for example, right? And but to come back and do the patio next year, there would be a setup fee, right? And our setup fee
Yeah.
is like $1,000 or whatever it might be. And since my crew will already be here doing the garage, also take care of the patio over here next Tuesday, we
Hmm.
won't have to do a second setup fee for you. And as a result, you obviously have a pretty big savings. So what you end up doing in that scenario is you're giving them a really massive logical reason to act now, right?
Hmm.
I'll add into that too, like doing this year not only
Yeah.
saves you that, but like every single year our prices do what? They go up, right? So
Yep.
you're not only saving on that, but you're saving on the, what used to be a 3 to 5% price increase every year. But we all know since COVID, that number's gone from that to probably closer to like 7 to 10% every single year.
Yeah. Yeah. That's good. Good information. So let's do what we always do, Fitz, and let's make this actionable. If we've got an owner or a VP of sales or some other, person in a place of influence in their business, and they're listening to this right now and they know their team is leaving money on the table, what are some concrete steps, no pun intended, that we need to take this week?
Sure. All right. So step one, you got to train the transition, right? You got to
Sure.
practice what you want to play. So you have to role play the second sale. So teach your sales reps to fully acknowledge and secure that first yes, right? So we definitely want to make
Hmm.
sure we get that and then go from there. So congratulations, you're going to love the garage floor, and then seamlessly pivot. Hey, while we're getting the paperwork together, I did notice the back patio. Have you ever considered doing anything with that?
Hmm.
Right? They need to practice it until it feels natural.
That's good. And I think that that's also going all the way back to the kind of the beginning of this conversation is how do we help that sales rep figure out how not to sell scared?
Hmm.
Practice, role play, practice. Good. So step two, I'm going to pull this over to the marketing ops side. You need to audit your pre-appointment communication and your marketing material. You need to make sure that you're sending content out that showcases multi-area jobs. And if you aren't, get a quick video, pull some projects out of company cam, talk to your marketing team, and then make sure some of these automated follow-ups with the customer are including kind of a comprehensive project. And then add it to your marketing and your confirmation sequence if it isn't there.
Yeah, I like it. It's a huge help to us on the sales side. And if your salespeople aren't thanking your marketing team for doing that, add that to your sales process, right?
That's right.
Yeah. So, all right, how about step three, right? Create standard value stack packages, right? This is also a big help. So, as a sales leadership team, do this for your sales team. Don't make your sales reps do complex math. We're not good at it.
Mhm.
If we had to do it on the fly, it's kind of weird when we got to take our shoes and socks off to get all the fingers and toes out. So, give them maybe like something that's like a good, better, best option that they can put together that includes the add-ons with like bundle savings already calculated out, right? So make it super
Yep.
easy for the rep to present, even more importantly, super easy for the customer to understand so that the buying decision is just not complicated in any way. So look, if you implement these three things, you'll watch your average order value climb, and that lead cost that has been stressing you out will suddenly become a lot more manageable.
Yeah, that's good. Great ads, great leads. They aren't about tricks. They're about understanding people, telling a clear story, and really having a system that maximizes each of these opportunities.
Absolutely. Look, these are simple, actionable things you can put into play today that can grow 1 to 2 sales this week by shoot a few $1,000s, right? And
Yeah.
if you do that each week and by the end of the year, right, what does that end up doing to your marketing cost? Better yet, what does
Mhm.
that do to your bottom line?
Yeah. Yeah. It's a huge difference. We talk to a lot of our customers about cost of marketing, yeah, as a percentage of revenue, right? And everybody's goal in our industry is 10% cost of marketing is kind of that like dream number. And, growth mode, you're going to be closer to 20%. Certain markets, you're sitting in that 15%. But what you notice is if your team isn't upselling, then your cost of marketing might be 20, 25%, like an outrageous number. And you go, if marketing stays the same, but sales adds 20% to
Mm,
what they sell,
yep,
your cost of marketing comes back into line and it helps that conversation out a lot. Yeah, it's
100%. Yeah.
to be honest, if you're out there scratching your head on some of these numbers this year, and if you're looking for a partner who can help you with this sort of thing, set up a call with us. We're happy to walk you through it and we're happy to help. So if you stuck with us today and found some value in what we talked about, do us a favor, ring the bell, like and subscribe, share with a friend. especially those that would benefit from this. You got a buddy with a small business and he's scratching his head. Send him this episode and say, hey, are you upselling, projects you're given? And we'd love to hear from you guys as well. So Fitz, always a pleasure. And to the listeners out there, keep building.
Absolutely. Happy hunting, everybody.
Thanks for watching. Now get back to work.